Anything on your mind for today, sweetie?
Hmm. Can't think of anything right off. Glad to be here.
Me too. It's an honor and a privilege every day that we get to do this. And I think it's really exciting what you're doing with our workshops. I'm not sure whether you've mentioned that or not, but I think yesterday you added something like 30 videos to our YouTube channel. Is that accurate?
Yes, I put 10 shorts up from one of our Zoom sessions that we did on June the 19th. And then I entered 22 from the Introduction to A Course in Miracles. So two of those were over 3 minutes. So they landed on the regular video page. All the rest of those are under shorts. So they're all under 3 minutes. Most of them are under 1 minute. Give them a look, give them a like.
Yeah, it would be nice to hit a like on them and share them with others. Basically, what we're doing is we're going to take our workshops and break them into just, short something people can watch in under 3 minutes to give them a taste of what we're doing. And so, if you'd pass those along, I'd appreciate it. And I see that Susan's got her mute button off. So,
Yes,
welcome,
I
young
do.
lady. How are you? What's exciting in your world?
Oh, lots is happening, going deeper based on the need to be special. But okay, so yesterday, I think this is all tied in, so I just want to bring that into the conversation, into the field
Okay.
around the divine masculine and feminine, the divine feminine, the qualities of that. And I sense, that's who we're meant to be, but we live in a distorted world where we see the attributes of a wounded masculine and a wounded feminine, and I see where women have held the wounded masculine qualities, so the divine masculine and their partners don't show up. I see that in my own world. So, and I was just on the call with Dr. Hayes and realizing in my own world at a very young age the feeling of not being able to feel safe in the presence of men. You know,
That's a big one.
and I just like we did a little process with him, and of course all this whole need to be special, because when he brought it up yesterday, that there was really big resistance when he said, I talked about that yesterday when he had outlined that we're all in the same ride and we're all at the same level. When he said the same level, that's when I got the big charge, and then we were able to find it was actually based in my need to feel safe. To be special is it's a safety mechanism. Um,
Right.
yeah, so.
That you're going to be taken care of if you're special.
Yeah, yeah, I really saw that. And then also and I was out for lunch with a friend yesterday, and they're talking about wanting to be in relationship, but all of the things she was talking about men, how men show up, was all wounded. What she was wanting from it was based on a wounded masculine attributes. And I
Right.
was saying to her, no, no, that isn't the way. And so I was illustrating qualities of what a divine masculine is and also the divine feminine. And when I was came out of dream time this morning, I came up and all these qualities of divine masculine were showing up, right? Like that, they're just walking in. And I was saying to them, just for you and Jeanie, I was saying, I only know one couple that I've seen really in my incarnation here that I would say that hold that energy. And really, that would say that's you and Jeanie and how you guys in the roles
Thank
that you
you.
both hold. Yeah, really. And I'm committed to be that within myself. And it's almost like I'm landing in my own being now and going into the Hieros Gamos journey of being that within, of holding the divine feminine and the receptivity to be able to receive, and then also for the divine masculine within me to serve that part of me. It's really coming clear now. But I wanted to bring that into the field because I really believe that's very important for humanity.
And to recognize that the masculine has in many cases wounded the feminine, who in turn have wounded the masculine, who in turn have, and there's this cycle,
Yeah.
and oftentimes the pointing of the finger to the opposite. I almost ended up in tears yesterday. Jeanie has a monthly meeting that she goes to with her high school graduation class.
Mm-hmm.
And she was sharing that one of her classmates brought their grandson, who was about 8, to the meeting. And, it's a breakfast meeting or a lunch type of thing. And so this young boy was sitting between Jeanie and was his grandfather, Jeanie? Doesn't really matter, but
Yes, it
whoever
was
it
his
was.
granddad.
And in any event, he was very shy, like, head down, would hardly talk. And then finally, once he got talking, he wouldn't shut up, but he started telling jokes. And one of the quote unquote jokes that he told was what happens when you put a mother and a whip together. And of course, everybody goes, well, I don't know. I just, well, beats me.
Mm.
And it's just like, that a child of 8 even comprehends that. And what do you suppose when the stress
Yeah.
is up and the chips are down 30 years from now, when he's probably 60 to 80 pounds heavier and a foot taller than the woman that he's with, what do you suppose is going to happen?
Yeah.
And we need to be working on both ends of this. It's going to take compassion to each individual, the divine feminine in each of us, the divine masculine in each of us, holding the space for the wounded feminine and the wounded masculine on the other side of the equation. And when we can't hold that space, it'll be because of our wounds, not because of theirs.
Absolutely. I really
And so
see, yeah.
the whole process is just, it's huge.
Yeah, it's so, and this is, I really believe more and more, I see what my mission and function is. And it's to heal my own mind, obviously. That's because there's no one outside but me, my reflections of me, and that I get to hold and Andrea's on the call with me, who's a beautiful soul, and hopefully she's going to be coming in November as well. And we had a solstice ceremony with 8 women, and we did some really deep, 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 deep work also around around many of the women don't even know what it is to be in the presence of a divine masculine. They have no concept of it.
Yeah.
And then their minds are telling them what a masculine is all the wounded traits.
Yeah.
And we
And
got,
unfortunately, vice versa.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
the real problem. It's like, who gets big enough to handle the wounds? Another situation that comes to mind. Jeannie and I were shopping. This was probably, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, something like that, maybe longer. We were in a large grocery store, and in front of us, there's a woman with her son who's about 3, and mom's got some grapes sitting on top of the groceries, and he wants grapes, and it becomes a big fuss and a big fight. And so the woman pulled off to the side and motioned for us to go ahead and check out, as she, got squared away with what was her son. And so Jeannie went to check out. I went up to get the car to pull up to the front door. And by the time, this woman had straightened out with her son, and Jeannie was already standing at the front door waiting for me to pull up. And the words that she heard coming from this little kid who was maybe 2.5 and maybe 3 were, Mom, I love you. Don't beat me.
Yeah.
Like, why does a child of 3 even have a concept of words like that? And I
Yes.
think that's the big challenge, is that it's it's both sides in each of us
Hmm.
that is carrying those wounds. And for me, it points out, when you get to what are the real healing principles, there's only one place on the planet that I've found the deepest keys, and those keys come out of the mouth of this man Yeshua 2,000 years ago in Aramaic. And until they're understood in the Aramaic concept, they're distorted. People have got all kinds of meanings for them. And and the one key, the main piece of the puzzle that needs to fall into place. If you read the Greek rendition of his words, they say to him, well, what's most important in the law? And what the Greeks tell us he said is, well, you've got to love God and love your neighbor as yourself. And the word that was used in that context in Aramaic has nothing to do with this idea of loving your neighbor, loving God, or loving yourself. It speaks of a gateway and a condition in the frontal lobes of the brain. The word in Aramaic was Rakhma. And that's the starting point. That's the initiating point inside of any individual before they can literally bring in either the divine masculine or the divine feminine aspect of themselves, the truth of who we are, coming into a body mind unit with a genetic history that has all kinds of wounds. And the first order of business, of course, is, as you said, is so now I'm going to go to work on healing my mind. And in Aramaic, what those words said was, have this condition called Rakhma in your mind when you think of the creator, when you think of neighbor. And then here's the big kicker with that one. He says, by so doing, you maintain yourself, your own human life.
Mhm.
That there's a way that this state of being that holds compassion and resolution to everything enters into the human form. There's a gateway for it. And if the gateway is not open, it doesn't exist. And so we have all kinds of belief systems and all kinds of things that people are trying to do without having the keys to how to do it.
Yeah, it's huge. And even at the solstice ceremony we were transmuting lots of dark energy. It was right across from a residential school and all these, and Andrew was playing the bowls, the crystal bowls, and we were all just in our sacred space, but all these, I want to say, diseased energies were coming out for transmutation. And the
Mm.
best part, as they were rising, just I was holding love. It was just in the presence of love and allowing it to discharge. And it was just like it was going through us, like it was going through us out of this for whatever reason. And I'm going to say in this template of reality, it was purifying it. And obviously, even the fact that that was going through me, I realized it would have been in my ancestral, held in my geometry in some way, and then
Right.
allowing that to transmute, and then being able to hold the truth of God, which is the aspects in this plane, the divine masculine and divine feminine qualities, and be able to walk in this world as a template for others to see what that is. And even,
That it's even possible.
yeah, that
Exactly.
it's
I'm with you.
impossible.
Yeah.
And the part, like, I want to go back to when we did the workshop and how you held, and when I went to that darkness showed up, whatever Satan aspect, the non-being mind showed up. And not only for me did you do it, but you did it for Matt as well. And all of the people there, that you had the capacity, and Jeanie as well, holding space, the capacity to hold and not, not, I want to give language that, not hold us looking beyond the ego qualities or the non-being mind, and to hold the presence of love in spite of the darkness that was showing up. Do you know that you could still be,
Exactly.
that you could still stay, both of you could still, and Jeanie did it beautifully holding space with her feminine, that you could still hold Rakhma present so the distorted, diseased energy could be liberated and transmuted into love. I'm so
Yeah, the
grateful.
more of it that moves
Yeah,
in that space, the deeper the healing process is for sure.
yeah. And and then even I was saying to friends here, I mean, I'm talking about you two all the time. Your ears are probably ringing. But I talked about when we were doing the energy work as well. And when you said to me, and you apologized for the behaviors of the masculine. And I'm going to start to cry because when you said,
Go for it. I'm with you.
a little girl didn't deserve to be, that shouldn't have ever happened to a little girl,
Yeah.
what I went through, and that you said, I
Mhm.
will, with 1,000% integrity in all energies, in all parts of you, I will hold you in integrity and you can trust.
Notice where your breath's being restricted and let it soften and open. Next layer ready to move.
Just, I feel as I'm sitting here saying this out loud,
that I have been doing my work to attract a divine masculine that could hold that, and I can learn how to be safe in my own being. So I really appreciate that, so, like, so much. And so I can start to reframe in my consciousness that I truly am safe in my own being, and the world's reflecting that. I don't have to be on guard, that I can rest into the safety of God.
Yes.
And that Rakhma, that I am protected, and, over lifetimes of not being able to speak my truth for things. And so it's just so important, I can see, for all of us that are on the call, and Cami, who, is doing her work and getting a chance to meet her, we've known many lifetimes, and Andrew, I've known many lifetimes, and I believe you guys. And we are here to hold the truth of what it is to be love, and what it is to hold divine masculine and feminine within each of ourselves, and then reflect it to the world. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
another powerful piece of the puzzle that needs to be dealt with one of the workshops. And I have this little divine masculine guy who's 10 months, who's just kind of waking up a little bit and turning over, rolling over on my chest as I'm talking. It's pretty sweet. But one of the workshops that he does is women healing women. And the last time we did that workshop, or she did that workshop, I was there. I was not part of the workshop. I told her I'd put on a dress if I could come, but she wouldn't. Only for women. But anyway, there was a very powerful process that they did over both losing children and having abortions. And I think, Jeanie, if I remember correctly, every woman in the group had either lost a child or had had an abortion.
Yes.
And maybe you want to share what you did with that. It sounds very much like what you're sharing,
So I
Susan,
had
that your group of women did.
I said if they lost a child that had a name, assigned to it, to use that. But if they had lost one or aborted one that they hadn't named, to give it a name, and then to write a letter to it explaining whatever they wanted to explain, what their position was when they did it, how they felt about it then, how they felt about it now, and anyway, so they did that through the day when we had an intermission. And then that evening we went out and this was an intensive we did in Oak Island on the beach. And so we went out to the beach and we did a little fire, and everybody caught their letter on fire and then put it in a bowl so that when it burnt down that they had the ashes. And nobody read each other's letters or anything. It was just to the child. And then once everybody had burnt their letters and it was just ashes, then we went out and we threw the ashes out into the ocean and just released it. And when we did that, this whole flock of pelicans just came swooping down along the edge of the ocean, just right in front of us. It was just super powerful. It was like we released it and then the pelicans took it away.
yeah, so powerful energetically,
Yeah.
Jeannie, as you share that again, it resonates. I've shared with you in the past, but I never actually put the two things together. But I used to live on a beach in Florida. My house was just a half a block off the beach, and I would do private sessions with people on the beach, and I would take them in the water to do the still point breathing process. And on more than one occasion, I did just never click for me, pelicans, but on more than one occasion, when someone completed their still point session, we would be dive bombed by a flock of pelicans. So that just not clicked before for me, but it was pretty
I'm just
cool
looking
energy.
up the spiritual meaning of pelicans, because
Yeah, I
I'm
never put those two together before, Jeannie. You just shared that, and it's like that happened more than once when I finished still point breathing with someone in the ocean.
It says pelicans symbolize selflessness, renewal, and abundance across various cultures and spiritual beliefs. They're often seen as nurturing creatures that teach the importance of balance, adaptability, and community support and personal growth. Yeah,
Powerful.
very powerful. Yeah, thanks for letting me share that out loud and, believing that that is resonating in the collective field for humanity, that each of us, as we do our work, we get to be move into the embodiment of those aspects, the true essence of ourselves for humanity, and then being able to
Absolutely.
mirror that back to humanity. So thank
Yeah.
you.
And one of the things that I'd suggested or come up with last week when we touched into that movie, I Can Only Imagine, and everybody watched it. And I suggested that every Friday we'd bring forward another film and invite everybody who chooses to do that to watch it over the weekend and then discuss it on Monday. So the film I'm going to invite, and it ties right in, the fact that you brought this topic up doesn't surprise me at all, Susan, because it ties right in what I'd been thinking about suggesting. It's a film ostensibly about addiction, but it also, there's a whole lot of male-female uh, energetic dynamics that are looked at and dealt with in the film, and is called Thank You for Sharing. And it's very powerful with the topic that we're talking about. So I'm just going to invite everybody to watch that film at some point this weekend. Thank you for sharing. And of course, breathe and take worksheets as you watch it.
It's actually thanks for sharing. There is
Oh,
another
thanks for sharing.
called thank you for sharing, but this is
Okay.
thanks for sharing.
Thanks
It's a
for catching that, sweetie.
2012 with Mark Ruffalo in it.
Yeah.
And I just
Powerful.
I wanted to point out, because the last movie I watched twice, right? I watched it, talked to you guys, we shared, they
Right.
shared it, and then I went back and watched it again. And going back the second time, I did bring worksheets for what was coming up within me, especially around, the masculine, and of course, taking, or the, all about beating children, all that stuff, which was in my history, and all of that. So being able to build the worksheets and do that, I was very grateful for that. So I look forward to watching this show also and taking it deeper into, the dynamics between men and women.
Cool. Yeah, it's been quite a while since I've watched it. It's something we used to show at Heartland. And so I'm looking forward to watching it again. It's been several years. It's powerful.
Thank you so
It's
much.
different people that have different addictions, and one of them is a sexual addiction. So it does have some graphic parts in it, but just breathe through it.
Yeah, it addresses things very powerfully.
Oh, it's going to be interesting. As soon as you just said sexual, that part already, I'm climbing up. So that's going to be an interesting. I'll report on Monday.
But what you'll notice in each case, no matter what their addiction was, when they get ready to quote unquote fall off the wagon, they first go to hostility.
It's
then when
always their first
every
drug.
one of them. And when their hostility doesn't work, then they go to whatever their addiction was, whether it was drinking or drugs or
Wow.
sex, or whatever. But hostility is their first go-to.
Okay. And can you, I think it was Andrea asked me that. Can you give me your guys' definition of hostility? I did look it up. But I would like to know your guys' definition on that.
Hostility would be a thought disorder that one uses to anesthetize against one dealing with internalized pain, or two, shutting down guidance and expressing that through anger.
Thank you so much.
And it is one of the alternative filters in the mind. We talked about Rakhma, and Yeshua said the first law Like, basically the question they ask is, what's most important if you're going to be a human being? And in Aramaic, the word law has nothing to do with our Greek idea of law being the rule of a superior. The word law simply means the way it works. So, what's most important in the way human life works, and what Yeshua offers is not love your neighbor, love God, but rather have Rakhma when you think of the Creator, when you think of self or neighbor, and by so doing, you maintain self. And the alternatives to that, that's talking about literally a filter and a gateway over the frontal lobes of the brain. The alternatives to that are hostility, there's another filter, and there's fear. And only one of those filters can be active at a time. So when Rakhma is active, one, the gateway for the true presence of active love, our created essence, is open. So love is present within us, no matter what's going on in the world, no matter what's going on in the mind. And two, the activity of Rakhma is to filter all negative or destructive intentions out of awareness. Much like if, let's say, I'm in a room and I've got a glass wall and it's really hot out. What do? I put a filter. I put a filtering mechanism on the glass, and it shuts out the infrared rays that create heat. I can still see out the window, but the infrared rays can't come through, so the room cools down. Well, when hostility is active, the only quality of intentions available for use in the mind are those which are destructive. When fear is active, the only quality of intention that are available are negative. And so when we keep Rakhma active, when we keep that active, then one, love is present. Two, the activity of the mind, the raw material that we've got to use in the mind is always based in love rather than negative or destructive. Once that activity is solid in the mind, it's kind of like the instruction manual for how do you drive a car. If you don't know where the key goes, you're not going anywhere. If you don't know anything about Rakhma, it's going to be really hard to live a life based in love because there's so much hostility and fear in the world that will tend to take over. So it's like, here's how you drive the car. So once love is present, our created essence is present, and two, the mind is keyed to, or the frontal lobes of the brain are outputting only intentions keyed to love, then those intentions, and most people, we hear there are people out there writing books about the power of intentions. Intentions have no power. Intentions are simply the raw material of goals.
Yeah.
And so if the raw material coming from the frontal lobes of the brain are based in love, then our goals are based in love. And now we're going to have a perceptual mind that feeds us guidance and behavior prompts that are based in love rather than hostility and fear.
And that would be Kuba, right? When you talk about perception in the
In
back of the
Kuba,
brain.
there's a second, right? So Rakhma's in the frontal lobes, then there's Kuba, a corollary filter over the perceptual part of the mind in the back of the brain. And there's hostility and fear over that part of the mind as well. When hostility is the active filter over perception, the back of the brain, then the only quality of data that's available for building our perception through the hostility filter is irritating. So whatever somebody looks at, whoever somebody looks at, when the hostility filter is activated, they're going to be irritated. And they're, of course, going to think that person's the source of their irritation.
Yeah.
When fear is the active filter, then the only quality of perceptual data that's available to build our behavior driving realities, to build our perception, are those that are pardon me. Just a second. We got Lincoln. Just here. Here you go. I got this little guy who's busy here.
Yeah, can you feel his little energy behind? Oh my
He
gosh,
wants his
what he's going to
bottle.
set in the world, what he's going to bring to this world is have you two as his guidance. Oh my gosh, how lucky is he?
We're having fun.
Yeah.
So hostility is irritating, and when fear is active, the only quality of perceptual construct one can have is where the data is based in threat. And so if Rakhma and Kuba are active, our goals are based in love, our perceptions based in love, we're going to be on track with human life. If
Yeah.
the other two are active, then we'll look at the same object of attention. The person that 10 minutes ago we're saying, oh, I love you so much. If the hostility filter is active, all of a sudden, why are you attacking me? What's wrong with you? Why are you doing this to me? They're totally and completely consumed with threat,
Yeah.
not because of what that person does, but because of the filter that's active in them. And of
Yeah.
course, if they're consumed with threat, they're going to tend to inspire someone to cooperate with that threat and bring it on. When the hostility filter is active, then there's the irritation. Same object of attention a minute ago. One was saying, I love you, I cherish you. And then, what are you doing to me? Why are you threatening me? And then when the fear filter is active, all of a sudden, or pardon me, the hostility filter is active, all of a sudden they're irritated. There's irritation toward that person.
Yeah. Wow.
And
It's really landing.
it's all
Yeah.
set in the way the mind operates.
It's
And
helping me.
so
Sorry, go ahead.
bringing that first key forward, that before anything, I'm committed to maintaining this condition of Rakhma in my mind and keeping my perceptual constructs on track with human life rather than the inhuman states of hostility and fear.
Yeah. Wow. I'm just getting a big epiphany right now around, the goal that I want to be safe in the presence of men.
Right?
Okay. That, and seeing how it, even what that piece, and now I see the perceptual filter in Cuba was blocking out Rakhma, right? Because I was in fear, the database based that men are threats.
Right. Right. So if fear is active in the perceptual part of the mind, these two filters are interrelated and interdependent. If one collapses, the other collapses. It's
Okay.
like that old song, you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
And Rakhma, according to Yeshua, is number one. When Rakhma is active, and we set that's the focal point, then Kuba will tend to come into play. If something's resonated in the mind that's based in hostility and fear, it will tend to knock Kuba out, which will compromise the presence of Rakhma. And that's why it becomes a practice to continuously set and maintain that filter and ask for support in making sure that it's active.
Yeah.
It's like one of the tools is that practice of keeping that active. Otherwise, it's like, when Rockman and Cooper are lost, it's like taking the key out of the car. That thing ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
neither is a human life going anywhere with the mind that's locked into hostility and fear.
It's very interesting because right here in my neck as we're speaking, right there in the back, I can feel it's lots of stuff. This is all interrelated and I can feel it in my right shoulder. So I'm excited to see what's going to get released through this
Well,
part.
the monumental piece of work you did on your neck when we did that quantum still point was pretty amazing. So, it'll be awesome to just see as the next layers peel off where
Yeah.
where everything goes for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for this conversation. It's just exactly on time.
Cool. Fabulous. Is it on time for anybody else?
You were talking about the key in the car, and I thought about, I don't remember where we were, but we had flown in and we rented a car, and it was the first time we had a keyless car, and it was just like this little square block that was given to us, and we couldn't figure out how to start the car because we didn't know how to work the key.
Yeah, we're sitting at the airport in the car, and it's like, what do we do with this? Like, until we get this piece, we're not going anywhere. And that's kind of like Rakhma. Till you get that piece, human life, true human life, doesn't go anywhere.
Remember to breathe, Susan. One of the conversations we had this morning, it's of course, we can talk about a better way of doing things, but Ryan and Gabby ultimately have their choice on what they do with their children. And so Aria is actually, her dad came and picked her up and took her to the doctor, and she thought she was going to get 2 shots. And so I was telling her, I said, instead of tightening up and holding your breath when they give you the shot, I said, you need to soften your entire body and breathe and take your breath through your whole body and just breathe the whole time. Well, it ended up they didn't give her shots today, so she didn't have to do that. But I was practicing with her, how to go the whole time. And I said, that keeps your body soft, and then the shots won't hurt as bad, and you'll be able to brush off the energy, the negativity of receiving those shots or whatever. So she said, okay, I'll do that. So do that with your neck too. Just
Yeah, I can feel lots is moving right now. It's that. Thank you for
take
that.
a
That's
breath
really
to your
cool.
neck.
Thank you.
Breathing deeply with you. And of course, the other thing is that when Rakhma is active, if there's any untoward energy that moves through the system, the power of that presence of love creates a transmutation, and that's part of what we're teaching Arya too. Just the medical system isn't always using the most appropriate energetic patterns in their quote unquote medicine. So one of the other things we've been teaching her to do is to transmute those to make sure love is present, and any negative impact is transmuted and released.
And she asked me, I didn't share this with you, Michael, as she was leaving. And I said, remember to breathe. And she goes, Nini, is it okay if I cry? It's like, I said, sweetie, if you need to cry, cry. But I said, keep breathing.
If you have to choose one or the other, breathe. If you can do both, go for both if you need to. So does that conversation resonate for anyone else? Sally, Cammie, Angela? Any thoughts?
I'll just add too, I just happened to think of this. For those of you who are going to attend the intuitive development intensive, go, if you haven't already done your purpose statement, and Susan, I know we mentioned that and kind of went over that during the other intensive a little bit, but on the website, you can download the worksheet to go through your purpose statement. But for me, I had done my purpose statement back in like 2003 or whatever, after I met Michael, and I didn't change it a whole lot until we did an intuitive development intensive. And there's an exercise, I won't explain it because you'll experience it, but it absolutely took my purpose statement into a different direction. So go ahead and do your purpose statement before you come to the intensive, and then you probably will see some areas to change in it.
And of course, if you do your purpose statement, remember one of the instructions is carry it on a 3x5 card, and then continuously adjust it, because in order to truly get clean and clear on our real purpose, the brainwash of the culture, remembering that the culture has a purpose for us that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with us, but rather has to do with the goals that the culture holds for us. And so cleaning out that brainwash, each time you get another piece of that cleaned out, oh, there's another clarity on purpose. And really, as human beings, what is the energy that we are uniquely designed to bring through our individual contribution to the world? And so, what is that? Well, here's Aria Rain. Aria just came in. We've got a bakery here that we get organic coffee grounds from for our garden. We've probably gotten 3,000 pounds in the last 3 or 4 years from them. We're soil building. So Aria and her dad had stopped by there, and they make these beautiful, huge croissants. And Aria just came in with one in her hand, saying, "Look what I got for you." Yeah, your sister's back. Yeah, really? Are you sure? So any thoughts for anyone? What's happening in your world? Where's your process right now? Seeing as how our group is primarily made up of ladies, does this conversation resonate? Anything for you? Anything we can support you with? Anything I can be the space to bounce off of, and you know, something that as Susan mentioned a little while ago, something that I started to do a long time ago was to really provide the apology from the male perspective at the insanity that men have done to women in this world, in this culture, and just about every culture on the planet. And so deep apologies for the insanity and holding a space for healing. So anything coming up for anyone?
I'd like to ask you a question.
Please do.
So I've asked Susan this quite a few times, and it's not quite landing.
Right.
In the wake up sheet, when it's talking about canceling the goal,
Right.
I'm finding this challenging because some of my training is based in attachment theory, and
Right.
it has been like solidified within me that when you have needs, you give them to yourself and you ask the people in your life for that support. But now
Right.
you're proposing canceling the goal, which to me is the need.
Right.
And I'm really like, I feel like my human mind needs to figure this out so that
Okay.
I can trust it to dive in, because I'm still
Right.
holding back.
I hear you. I understand totally.
Okay.
That's a perfectly, totally, completely legitimate question.
Thank you.
And so here would be my offering. And it took me working with, and I'm talking about full time. And back in the early days of developing this work, my full time was 12 and 14 and 16-hour days, 9 days a week. Aria, let's hold a space of quiet, okay, sweetie? Can we hold a space of quiet? How about maybe if you would, seeing as you guys want to play, you want to take him in with oh, here's Nini. Here she is. Come here, Lincoln. Here we go. Oh yes, big grins. There's Nini. Okay, excuse the distraction. So it took me literally 35 years of working with the Aramaic to understand how to answer the question you just asked.
Okay.
So thank you for asking it, because it's everybody's question. Because if I have, let's say, I have a need for people to be there for me and cherish me. I mean, that's in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that one comes up pretty high. And of course, everybody has that need. When I turn that need into a request from another person, in essence, what I'm doing is I'm setting a goal in my mind for them, which is perfectly reasonable. Gee, you're my partner. We cherish each other, and my need is to be cherished, and I ask you to, act in accord with that. And that's perfectly appropriate. Then the question comes, well, so that's perfectly appropriate, and that's a perfectly good goal to have. Why would I cancel my need for that goal? Because I recognize, and to lay some foundation, if you recognize that the mind stores information in files, so to speak. So if I say, don't think about the color of your car, you got a file in your mind on car. And your car might be red, and the last one you had might be blue, and you might go from red to blue, or whatever. I say, what's the front door of your house look like? You've got a file in your mind on what the front door of your house looks like. So if I have pained content in the file, so to speak, in my mind around being cherished and honored, my need for that, if I have pained content in me that I have not resolved, and it might be content that's 2 generations old, it might be 20 generations old, it might have happened when I was a child of 3. And here I am 30 years later in this relationship with a person that's getting kind of snarky. And I'm saying, I'd really like you to show me that you really cherish me. And they don't. They violate that goal. And when they violate that goal, because I have pain in that folder, so to speak, in my mind that's unresolved in me, chances are energetically what they're responding to is that energy in me that holds pain and maybe some kind of a belief that I don't deserve to be cherished. Maybe when I was 5, I threw sand in my brother's face and I got a dressing down for it and told what a terrible 5-year-old I was for throwing sand in my 2-year-old brother's face. And I have come to believe that I don't deserve to be cherished. So here I am 30 years later, that's totally unconscious. I'm not looking at that. I'm not dealing with that. That's too painful. When I cancel my goal, this person's, not fulfilling that goal, and up comes my pain, maybe rage at them, or it appears that my rage is at them. And when I cancel my need for them to cherish me, I collapse that rage-based pain in me. That construct in my mind collapses. And when it collapses, it drops into its root inside of me. And in that example that I just used, for instance, its root is the parent who stood there and raged at me for throwing sand in my brother's face. And in that state, that parent was my power person. My field was wide open, and I just energetically was a sponge for taking in that rage. Forevermore, when I'm in relationship, I'm going to tend to resonate rage in relationship until I go in and delete, remove, forgive that information from me. And the way I forgive it is I recognize I have this perfectly reasonable goal for this person to cherish me. They're not cherishing me. My rage comes up. I cancel the goal. Now I get to drop into the origin of my rage. And you'll notice before you cancel the goal in the worksheet, step before, you've brought love present. Love is the master solvent for everything that does not belong in the human energy field. So when I do step 4 in the worksheet, I bring love present, and then I cancel my goal. I bring my answer from 3 down to number 5, and I cancel my need for this person to cherish me. Now this whole rage-based component collapses, and I've got access to that original memory. And when that energetic dynamic that has been unconscious in me for decades or maybe generations is opened and exposed to present love, guess what happens? That rage that I took on from the raging parent when I was 5 is now dissolved in me. And that dissolution of that energy is forgiveness. And now that I'm free of that, I say to my partner, hey, how about cherishing me? And there's nothing in me that conflicts with that, because there's nothing left in the file in me that says I deserve to be punished rather than cherished. And so there's no energetic component of me asking to be punished because I've forgiven it. Does that make sense?
Okay, that makes complete sense. Yes. And I even struggle to access memories being so disassociated for so
Yes.
long. So
I
that
got it.
actually feels supportive to
Yes.
being able to access that. I do the worksheets and I'm literally just like, this is fucking so much work. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is ridiculous. I don't know if I want to do this because
Yeah.
I need to understand why I'm doing it and
Exactly.
how is this actually going to help? Because this is insane.
I hear you. I hear you. Like I said, when I first started, when I first came in touch with how forgiveness was done in the Aramaic, that the word forgive is shabag, shabak, it means to cancel, and it has to do with canceling goals. That did not impress me when I first heard it. However, in my teaching, once in a while, I would mention it to people. And over a period of time, people would come back to me and say, I've been doing that goal canceling thing. That's really powerful. And I was like, really? Oh, okay. And then I started to pay more attention to it and started to work with it. And one of the things that always pleasantly surprises me and sometimes shocks me is when people are in a real situation and they're doing this forgiveness process around something that's really deep and painful for them, when the instant they cancel that goal and the perceptual construct of mind collapses, the memories that surface, the images that surface are always just so profoundly informative and healing. And it's the only, my favorite statement in regard to that process comes actually from Carl Jung. You've maybe heard me say it. And what he says is until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct our lives and we will call it fate. There's only one place on the planet I've found the technology for consistently, persistently, and reliably accessing and deleting content from your own unconscious mind. And that is by, in the moment where perception is pained, I look for the goal that's driving my mind to use that data. Once I identify the goal that's actually driving my mind and I cancel that goal, then that construct collapses in on its own footprint. Now I've got access to the dissociated past, perhaps for the first time in my life. And if you consistently, persistently access your dissociated past, you'll free yourself from it. Because the unconscious has now become conscious in the presence of love. And that's what dissolves. That's what forgives.
And Andrea, just wanted to say, you and I obviously talking. I told you, remember I went to the 9-day retreat and when Michael first introduced this, I'm saying this is fucking stupid. Why would I do that? This is way too complicated. There's no way I'm gonna go through this. That's the non-being mind wanting to control and tell
Don't
you.
make me look.
Yeah, exactly. Don't make me look at myself and all these disassociated and projected patterns. I was an absolute, that's hostility was coming up with Michael's talking, a huge amount of hostility, and I was projecting it on Michael and his process. And as you know, when we went through the worksheet the other day, it gets clearer and clearer. And then as he's saying, the unconscious, you're doing it. You're doing it, my darling. And we're gonna go celebrate there in November.
Yeah, I was grateful you told me about those feelings because they're there. I'm like pissed right off.
Yeah, that's
and
normal.
really angry about it and wanting to not step in. But at the same time, the pain is so on the surface from the catalyst that happened. And I
Breathe.
just like can't live with it either.
Take a deep breath in with the open mouth.
Yeah.
Just allow,
Relax and breathe, soften
just
and
breathe
breathe.
in. Just allow, just breathe it in. You're here. You're doing like you're here. I mean, like remember I said how lucky I felt that, oh my God, I manifested Jeanie and Michael. Like with all of the work I've done, that here the truth is before me. And now all we have to do is walk the path. We're in the swim lane going home. We landed here. We got it. And we just, everything that comes up, we get to face it. And we have the support of these beautiful divine masculine and feminine every single day. Every day they're here holding us in the arms of the divine mother and father. Oh my God. And Dr. Tim, we can't, it's grand.
We're blessed.
And blessed and whatever comes
And
up and Dr. Michael holding it and Jeanie holding it and the sacredness of God, it does not get better than that. And we just face everything comes up because we're intended to be our natural state of being, which is Rakhma. We were born that way. And now we're just clearing out everything that is not that, as is said in the Course in Miracles. And also in the Bible, when you first go on this path, be prepared, you will first be disturbed, because you have to face everything within you that is not God.
And
Yeah.
one offering I'd also put in the space, Andrea, is that while you say you're angry at this, my offering is you're not angry at this. You've actually never been angry about anything in your life, but there's anger in you. And you can put that anger, and I guarantee you've noticed this, you can put that anger into your brain's image of anything or anybody, including yourself when you look in the mirror. The only reason you experience it is because it's there. What this technology is designed to do is to remove it. And that's what forgiveness is. But in order to remove it, you've got to bring it forward in order to expose it to love. But when we live in denial, the core process, and I noticed the word disassociation. That's a different thing from what I'm talking about that ties in with denial. Disassociation, and many people, of course, do this in very traumatic situations, is they literally remove themselves from what's going on inside of them or what's happening in their lives. But the cycle that I've identified is one where when we live in denial, and it's a specific definition of denial with this work. Denial is when I either think or speak as though something outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside of me. So you made me mad. So once I do that, then I have to not disassociate, but I have to dissociate from my anger. I've told my mind that you out there are the cause of my anger. So now the real cause of my anger, I have to hide from myself. I have to dissociate from it. And that's how we create what I consider to be an unnatural condition called an unconscious mind. Now I'm unconscious of what my anger is about because I've got this story about it's about him or her or them or that or this or whatever. And once that occurs, once I've dissociated from that content, literally on an energetic level, by pushing it down, I've added energy to it. And it literally creates a measurable high energy wave that radiates out from me 360 degrees. And because we live in a world of resonance, whatever it is I dissociate from, I set up a field that says, hey, is there anybody in the neighborhood who knows how to piss me off? Guess who's going to show up? Guess who's going to be resonated into the space? And they're going to do, they may be someone who came into my space totally committed to being loving, caring, and nurturing, but they got close enough to that unconscious message that, I need somebody who's going to abuse me, that they unconsciously go into abuse. And when they do that behavior, what happens is that person who's been attracted by that resonance now resonates the dissociated part of my mind, and I use that data literally to build my brain's image of them, and they show up in my mind with my problem attached, and I really believe it's their problem because after all I can see it. But then sooner or later I have to go, oh yes, but I'm the one who's feeling it, so it's obviously happening in my tissue structure. So what canceling the goal does is it collapses that whole false projection, that whole false picture, and gives us access to our own unconscious dynamics so that we're not creating our lives over and over and over again out of the same patterns of unconsciousness.
Okay, that that makes so much sense, and I realize the time. I do have one more question, but I can save it to Monday if you'd like.
Oh, go for it. We're here. If it's a long one, we'll maybe put it on hold. We're just a minute or two over, and that's not a big deal. Go for it.
Okay, so with purification, now through this process, I want some kind of a guarantee. Not a guarantee, but like something solid to hold on to for reassurance.
Okay.
If as if I commit to this and continuously go through this, what does the purification process look like? So if I spend X amount of time is irrelevant, but doing uncovering all that's in the unconscious, does that then mean nothing is going to come back up again?
No, actually, quite the opposite. First of
Okay.
all, you'll remember in step 2 in the worksheet, it says I'm willing to go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing.
Okay.
On a physical level, healing looks like any kind of physical symptom you've ever had and low energy. On a mental level, looks like any kind of negative thought you've ever had and confusion. On an emotional level, looks like any kind of negative feeling you've ever had and depression. So I can give you a guarantee that's what you're going to go through. Now, you can only access and clean up that which you have the vitality to do. So let's imagine, I use this as an example. Let's imagine we've got a vitality meter. It goes from 1 to 10. And I'm at a level 5 vitality, and I have this level 7 toxin. And I'm so sure I want to deal with that level 7. I want to get rid of that one. Man, I'm so committed. I want to deal with that one. Guess what? I can't touch it. If I'm at a level 5 vitality and I hold a level 7 toxin, if that level 7 toxin were to break loose, it could literally physically kill me, the toxic release. So as I do my work, I'm going to get to a level 6 vitality and go, hey, I'm feeling pretty good. I get to a level 6.5 vitality and say, hey, this is really working. I get to a level 7. It's like, man, this is great. I get to a level 7.5. I go to bed that night. Man, this is so great. I feel better than I have in decades. And then I get up in the morning and I wonder if anybody got the number the Mack truck threw into my room during the night because I'm now lower than a snake's belly. What happened? Last night I was on top of the world. What's wrong with this picture? Nothing's wrong with the picture. It's perfectly on track. You hit a level of vitality where you were able to unwind and undo, face and process out the toxic energy. So having hit that level 7 vitality, you could break, or level 7.5, you now could open the level 7 toxicity and process through it. So what tends to happen is we heal on a spiral. You can process something at the level of vitality you are and no higher. And the next level of vitality, you'll come back around to that issue again. The next level, you come back around to it again. And the next level, you come back to it again until you're finished with it. But you will get finished with it. It's just a process. And you can't go deeper than you've got the vitality to handle. And there are a few radio shows where we talk about this, in the system of medicine I'm trained in. This is called a healing crisis. I'll go ahead and send you. Do I have your phone number?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll text you a link to the radio shows where we've talked about healing crisis, and it gets into a lot more detail.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And I hope that everybody will take the time to watch that movie. Thanks for sharing. And